My name is Curtis Higgins and I am 25 years old. I grew up in Las Vegas and I actually grew up with cystic fibrosis. I had a pretty normal childhood, went to high school just like anybody else. And then when the time came that I came to college, I decided that I wanted to come to Jacksonville because Jacksonville University had sent me a free application. And so I ended up visiting the college and I loved it. And so I ended up doing aviation management. So my senior year of college, I ended up getting sick pretty often at that point, going to the hospital at least once or twice a month at times. And when Thanksgiving rolled around, I got sick and I ended up having to go in the hospital on December 1st. Luckily, before that, in November, I ended up having to come to Mayo Clinic to do some tests and figure out my status as far as getting an organ transplant. And they determined that I had a heart condition when that happened. So when the time came that I had to go into surgery, I had to do the heart surgery done first, and I ended up having to do a superior vena cava bypass because I had a really fast resting heart rate and I had an obstruction in one of my major veins. And so on December 20th, I ended up having to go under anesthesia for that, and did the surgery. Everything went okay. But 4 days later, on Christmas Eve, I ended up having to go on what's called an ECMO, which is just a type of life support that basically takes blood out of my body and puts it back into my body while oxygenating it at the same time. And when that time happened, that's when I went on the list for transplant. And then 4 miraculous days later, I ended up getting a match. And I got a double lung transplant on the 28th of December of 2013. And then I woke up a few days later and needless to say, not really knowing what was going on at that point in my life. It was quite an experience. I mean, I definitely had a lot of challenges that I had to go through. Getting nerve damage in my left leg, that was the biggest challenge, but lung-wise, I was doing fantastic from the start. And if it wasn't for my nerve damage in my leg, I probably would have gotten out of the hospital a lot faster than what initially happened. Overall, it was just being very, very patient for the doctors to try to figure out what was going on with my leg and what exactly happened, and it was determined that I ended up getting a dropped foot. When I was going through discharge, I thought I was going to be able to just go home, but it turns out that I had to actually get admitted into rehab because, I had to rehab my left leg, to learn to walk again, that sort of thing. And I really didn't realize how much of a process it is to try to have yourself relearn to do something that you've been known to do your whole entire life. Definitely some things in this world are taken for granted, and I definitely learned a big lesson learning to walk again and having to rehab my nerve damaged left leg. So it was quite a process. And this was after 60 days of being in the hospital, and then I ended up having to go to rehab for another 12 days. So it was a total of 72 days being in hospitals and rehab. My health right now is great. I really haven't had to worry about a whole lot. Obviously every transplant, there's always going to be bumps in the road, for sure, but definitely nothing that has been major by any means. It's always been very minor stuff. But what I do for work, I actually have a media production business. So I do video production, I make custom websites, and then I also do some social media marketing, and then I also am a life insurance agent, which is ironic because I am not eligible to get a policy. So some of my goals, I definitely want to build up a couple businesses, because I'm an entrepreneur, so I would definitely want to keep going the business route, try to do all I can for my family and do all I can for my donor that I've not been able to meet the family yet, but hoping to one day. All doing this for my donor. It's very important for me to do that and also help my family out, retire my parents, things like that. Definitely my most memorable experience. When I was going through the transplant process, this is after I got the transplant and all that, I almost got tranked. And what that means is basically putting a breathing tube in my throat, and in order for me to breathe. They originally told me that I would have to get one of those pretty much regardless. But it ended up not having to be the case because what happened was the doctor had come in and told me that I wasn't breathing as well as what they wanted me to. Well, I never forget her name. I'm not going to say her name for privacy reasons, but she had told the doctor to give me 24 more hours. And so in that 24 more hours, my sister and my mom were here at the hospital with me, and I ended up, and she was actually helping me do breathing exercises and retraining myself to breathe again. I can never thank my sister enough for that. For basically 24 hours, she pushed me every single hour on the hour to breathe hard and breathe heavy, to allow myself not to get tranked. And then the time came, 24 more hours later, doctor came in and said that I was just at the cusp of not getting tranked. So it was definitely a memory that I'll never forget. And Jamie, if you're watching this, I love you for everything that you've done for me. So.